Listen up, family. Life can feel like a storm that won't quit, can it? You're out there, battered by betrayal, carrying the weight of heartbreak, maybe wrestling with dreams that feel like they've slipped through your fingers like sand in a desert wind. What's your name? Where's your soul at right now, physically, emotionally, spiritually? Are you bone tired from pouring your heart into people who don't pour back, chasing approval that leaves you hollow? Or running a race with no finish line in sight? I'm Denzel Washington, and I'm here to share a truth God's carved into my spirit. When I hit 65, I started stepping back from folks not out of anger or resentment, but to protect the sacred peace God died to give me. Right now, God's speaking to you through the noise, whispering in that still, small voice, "My child, I've crafted a path for your rest, your joy, your purpose." Psalm chapter 46, verse 10 proclaims, "Be still and know that I am God." This is your moment to pause, to reclaim the life He's destined for you. At 65, God opened my eyes to a seismic shift in how I see life, relationships, and time itself. For decades, I was the man who showed up for everybody, friends calling in the dead of night, family needing a rock to lean on, neighbors knocking for help with a flat tire or a heavy heart. I gave my all, thinking that's what love demanded. But God, in His infinite wisdom, showed me that not every connection deserves the sacred energy He's placed in your soul. Stepping back at 65 isn't about building walls or nursing grudges. It's about guarding the holy peace Christ secured on the cross, cherishing the time God's entrusted to you, and locking in with laser focus on the calling He's written over your life. Today, I'm bearing my soul, sharing the lessons God's etched into my heart through joy, pain, and divine revelation. We're diving deep into how time becomes a sacred treasure as you age, how relationships evolve under God's sovereign hand, and why solitude bathed in His presence becomes a fountain of joy, not a pit of loneliness. If this stirs your spirit, challenges your perspective, or lights a spark in your soul, you're exactly where God wants you. Hit that like button, subscribe to the Continuous Motivation channel, and let's walk this holy journey together. We're uncovering how God's unshakable truth can lead you to a life that's simpler, deeper, and overflowing with His purpose. At 65, God hit me with a revelation about time that shook my foundation to its core. It's no longer infinite. When I was young, I lived like I had an eternity stretching before me. I'd spend hours in shallow conversations that went nowhere, pour energy into relationships that left my spirit parched, or take on obligations just to dodge the sting of guilt. I thought time was an endless river, flowing without end. But God showed me it's a finite gift, every second a divine deposit from His hand. I ain't squandering His treasure no more. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 states, "To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven." This shift didn't come from fear of the clock ticking down, it came from God's wisdom illuminating my path like a lighthouse in a storm. Time isn't just a number on a watch, it's the sacred canvas where God paints your purpose, every brushstroke a moment of His grace. Every sunrise bursts with His glory, painting the sky with promises of hope and renewal. Every deep conversation with someone I cherish feels like a holy communion, rich with His presence, binding our hearts in eternal truth. Even the quiet moments, sipping coffee on my porch, watching leaves dance in the breeze, or strolling through a park at dusk carry a weight of eternity I never saw before. God's taught me that not every person, not every task deserves a slice of His time in me. That ain't selfish, it's stewardship of His divine gift. Let me take you back to my 30s, when I was hustling to make my mark in Hollywood. My days were a blur, rehearsals, auditions, meetings, and a calendar packed with commitments I didn't even believe in. I'd sit in rooms full of noise, smiling through conversations that felt like empty calories, thinking this is what it means to be connected. I'd rush from one event to another, barely breathing, barely present, my heart racing to keep up. I remember a night in '89, driving home exhausted after a charity event I attended just to show face. I was so drained I barely noticed the stars above. But one morning, as I watched the sun rise over the hills near my home, God whispered, "Denzel, why you giving my time to what don't matter?" That question stopped me cold. It was like a mirror held up to my soul, showing me how I'd been scattering his gift like seed on rocky ground, wasting it on things that didn't bear fruit. From that moment, I started praying over my days, seeking his guidance with every step. I'd ask, "Is this worth the energy you've given me, Lord? Does it spark the joy you've planted in my spirit? Does it align with the values you've written on my heart?" If the answer is no, I release it with peace, knowing I'm honoring his plan. Time spent on what ain't God ordained is time stolen from the purpose he's calling you to. It's like throwing pearls before swine, wasting what's precious on what don't endure. I learned this the hard way, family, giving hours to people and projects that drain my soul, leaving me empty for the ones who mattered, my wife, my kids, my God. I've embraced this truth by simplifying my life, starting with my relationships. No more saying yes to every invitation just to be polite. No more forcing small talk that feels like a chore, draining my soul like a leaky faucet. I seek connections that feel anointed by God, where I can be raw, real, and fully myself, where the other person values my time as a sacred gift just as I value theirs. A heart-to-heart over a cup of tea, where we laugh till tears stream, cry over shared pain, and pray for God's strength. That's worth more than a crowded party where I'm just a face in the room, invisible amidst the noise. I think of a recent evening with my old friend Samuel, sitting in his backyard talking about faith, fatherhood, and the dreams we still carry. We prayed together and I left feeling full, not drained. God's presence was in that moment, knitting our souls closer. What's your name, family? What's one commitment in your life God's nudging you to rethink? Maybe it's a weekly meetup that leaves you exhausted, a phone call you dread picking up, or a role you play out of guilt rather than love. Take it to God. He'll show you what to keep, what to release. This ain't about isolating yourself. It's about honoring the life God's entrusted to you, making space for his purpose to flourish like a tree planted by rivers of water. Time's become my holy companion, sent by God to guide me through this season. It slows me down, urging me to savor moments I used to rush through, like the warmth of a hug from my kids, the sound of my wife's laughter filling our home, or the stillness of a morning prayer where I feel his presence like a warm embrace. It whispers, "Choose wisely, Denzel, every choice carries my weight." It reassures me it's okay to let go of what don't serve his purpose, to say no without apology, to walk away from what dims his light in me. I think of a moment last year, standing on a film set, watching the crew hustle under bright lights. An old friend called, needing me to drop everything for a favor. In the past, I'd have said yes, stretching myself thin to be that guy. But God's voice was clear, "Your time is mine, guard it." I said no, kindly but firmly, and felt a peace I can't explain. Later, I spent that evening with my grandkids, building a fort, laughing till we collapsed. That was God's time, well spent, eternal in its joy. If you're feeling this shift in your soul, you ain't alone. There's no rule book for this season, but God's given us his word, his spirit, and his wisdom to guide us. Here's the truth he's shown me: focus on what matters. Time ain't about how much you got left, it's about what you do with it for his glory. Guard it fiercely, fill it with purpose, peace, and people who lift you in his name. When you treat time as God's treasure, your life transforms into a masterpiece of his design, every moment a stroke of his eternal brush, painting a legacy that echoes into eternity. As the years stack up, God revealed a truth about relationships that's both hard and holy. Not every bond is meant to last a lifetime. It's woven into his divine tapestry, and that ain't a sign of failure. It's life moving in his rhythm, like seasons turning under his command. Galatians chapter 6 verse 7 confirms, "Whatever a man sows, that he will also reap." When I was younger, I believed relationships needed constant effort to hold together, like keeping a fire burning in a storm. I memorized birthdays, showed up to every cookout, wedding, or funeral, and reached out even when my spirit was bone tired. I thought being there for everyone made me a good friend, a loyal neighbor. a devoted family man. I'd drive across town to help a buddy move, stay up late counseling a cousin through a crisis, or attend events just to show face. I remember nights in my 20s sitting in smoky community halls, clapping for folks I barely knew, thinking that's what connection looked like. But God in His mercy showed me a deeper truth: not all relationships are equal. Some pour life into your soul like rain on dry ground, nourishing your spirit. Others drain you, leaving you parched, weary, and wondering where your joy went. This revelation didn't dawn overnight. It was forged through decades of joy and pain, laughter and tears. I've been wounded by folks I trusted with my heart, let down by those I leaned on in dark times, and drifted apart from family whose paths veered far from mine. I think of a friend from my early acting days, man. We were thick as thieves, dreaming big over late night talks in dive bars, promising to have each other's backs. We'd sit in my old Chevy, planning our takeover of Hollywood, laughing till dawn. But as years passed, I saw he valued what I could do for him, my name, my network, more than who I was. He'd call only when he needed a favor, never asking how I was holding up. It hurt. Family, it cut deeper than a knife. For a long time, I took these losses personally, lying awake at night, asking, what did I do wrong? Could I have fought harder to keep them close? But God's voice broke through the fog. Denzel, people grow, and sometimes love means letting them go. That truth set me free, like chains falling off my soul. The freedom came when God taught me to invest in mutual bonds, relationships, where His love flows both ways, like a river nourishing both banks. A godly connection ain't you giving till you're empty with nothing in return. It's balance, like a dance where both partners move in step, guided by His rhythm. Does this person lift you up as much as you lift them? Do they listen with their heart when you pour out your soul? Do they bring God's light into your life or cast shadows over your peace? I've learned to ask these questions, to pray over every bond, to seek God's wisdom before I invest my heart. As I've grown older, my circle's gotten smaller, but it's richer, radiant with His presence. The friends and family still in my life, they're my anchors, my mirrors of God's love, my partners in His joy. I think of my wife, Pauletta, my rock, my heart, my home. After decades together, our bond is deeper than words, built on mutual respect, laughter, and countless prayers under His watchful eye. I think of my kids, now grown, who call just to check in, not because they need something, but because they love their old man. These are the ties that endure, the ones God's blessed with His handprint, sealed with His promise. But sometimes nostalgia creeps in like a soft ache in the bones. I think of old friends whose laughter used to fill my days, or kin whose lives took different roads. I recall a cousin who was like a brother. We'd spend summers fishing by the river in Mount Vernon, talking about girls, dreams, and everything in between. We'd sit on the bank, rods in hand, planning our futures like we were writing a script. Life pulled us apart. He moved across the country, started a new chapter, and our calls dwindled to silence. For a while, I grieved that loss, wondering if I'd failed him. But God shifted my heart from regret to gratitude, showing me those relationships shaped me, taught me lessons, gave me memories I'll carry to my grave. They were part of my journey for a season, even if they ain't walking with me now. What's your story, family? Who's come to mind as we talk about letting go? Maybe it's a friend who's drifted, a family member who's changed, or a colleague who's let you down. Take it to God. He'll show you what to hold, what to release. His call is clear. Don't cling out of guilt or obligation. Relationships, like life, evolve in His timing. Pour into bonds that bring His peace, and let go of those that don't. You'll find yourself surrounded by love, authenticity, and connections that make life shine with His glory, like stars breaking through a midnight sky. Trust is fragile, yet it's the heartbeat of every meaningful bond. At 65, God's shown me that trust ain't something to toss out lightly. It's a sacred bond, a covenant of the heart. And when it's broken, the scars linger, sometimes for a lifetime. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 declares, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding." In my younger days, I trusted easily like a child running into open arms, believing everyone meant well. I saw goodness in folks, gave my heart, my time, my loyalty without a second thought. That openness birthed beautiful relationships, friends who became family, mentors who shaped my path, strangers who became lifelong allies. I think of a director early in my career, Mr. Stallmaster, who took a chance on a young actor from Mount Vernon. Saw potential I didn't see in myself. His trust built me up, gave me wings to soar. But that same openness brought heartbreak too. I've been burned by folks I never thought would hurt me. I recall a friend I poured into, thinking we were brothers, only to learn he valued my platform more than my person. He'd call when he needed a boost, a connection, a favor, but when I needed him, his line was silent, like a ghost on the other end. I think of family whose choices built walls between us, choices I couldn't change, and a colleague who chose personal gain over our shared vision, leaving me to pick up the pieces of a dream we built together. Those moments stung. Family, they left marks on my soul like burns that ache when it rains. They didn't harden me, but they made me wise, cautious, prayerful. Now, when someone new enters my life, I don't rush in with open arms. I pause, I pray, I seek God's discernment. I ask, Lord, what's their heart? Are they here for your purpose or their own? It's not an easy way to live, but it's necessary to protect the peace He's given me. It's like guarding a garden. You don't let just anyone trample through. You watch who you let near the roots, the tender places where your soul grows. Yet God's taught me trust ain't just about others, it's about trusting yourself too, trusting the Spirit He's placed in you to guide your steps. Learning to heed His nudge in my gut has saved me countless times. I remember a business deal in my 40s that looked golden, big money, big names, big promises. Everyone said, "Denzel, this is your shot." But deep down, something felt off, like a warning bell ringing in my spirit. I prayed, sought God's face, and walked away. Months later, I learned that deal crashed, costing folks millions, ruining reputations. God's voice was my shield, His Spirit my compass, guiding me through a storm I couldn't see. But trust ain't dead, it's different, refined by His fire like gold purified in a furnace. Folks still surprise me with His kindness, a stranger who helped me when my car broke down on a back road in Georgia. A neighbor who brought soup when I was under the weather. A fan who wrote a letter sharing how my work led them to Christ. These small God-sent gestures remind me trust can bloom again, slow and steady, rooted in discernment, like planting seeds in fertile soil. The key is balance, setting boundaries, not barricades, giving trust to those who earn it through consistency, kindness, and respect. Where you at right now, family? Who's in your circle that God's asking you to pray over? Maybe it's a friend who's been distant, a coworker who's shown red flags, or even a family member whose motives you're questioning. Take it to God. He'll show you who to trust, who to release. Guarding your trust is self-care in His name. It ain't closing your heart, it's valuing the soul He crafted, protecting the light He's placed in you. That's how we walk in His truth at this stage, trusting Him above all, letting His wisdom guide every step, every bond, every choice. At 65, you can't ignore how the world's transformed into a whirlwind of noise and distraction. It's faster, louder, more tech-driven than ever, pulling us into a frenzy of notifications, deadlines, and demands. But for all its progress, something precious has slipped away, the warmth, simplicity, and connection God wove into the fabric of life like threads in a hand-stitched quilt. Isaiah chapter 30 verse 15 mentions, "And quietness and confidence shall be your strength." I grew up in a time when relationships were the heartbeat of community, pulsing with God's love. Neighbors weren't just folks next door, they were family, extensions of your heart. We'd drop by unannounced, share coffee, swap stories, laugh till our sides ached. I remember Ms. Johnson, our neighbor in Mount Vernon, who'd call me over to her porch for lemonade and life advice. Her words seasoned with wisdom and faith, like a sermon wrapped in love. Families gathered not out of duty but out of love, sitting around tables heavy with food, music, and memories. I can still smell my mama's cornbread, hear my daddy's laugh, feel the warmth of those Sunday dinners where time stood still. That was God's gift, unhurried, pure, like a slow dance under his gaze. Now, the world's a different beast. People are caught in a relentless race chasing success, juggling endless to-do lists, trying to keep up with a pace that never slows. Deep, soul-nourishing conversations have turned into quick texts squeezed between emails and alerts. I see it at family dinners, folks checking phones mid-sentence, half present, half lost in a digital fog. Even family time feels strained, stretched thin by distance, schedules, and competing demands. It's like we're all running on a treadmill going nowhere fast, missing the beauty God's placed right in front of us, like a sunset we're too busy to notice. Technology's a double-edged sword, a blessing and a burden. I'm grateful for it. I love FaceTiming my grandkids, seeing their smiles light up my screen from miles away. I cherish reconnecting with old friends through social media, swapping memories like trading cards from our youth. But tech builds walls, too subtle but real. Nothing replaces sitting across from someone, feeling their presence, hearing their voice raw and unfiltered by a screen. I miss the ease of those God-breathed moments when connection wasn't interrupted by a phone's ping or a smartwatch's buzz. I think of a night last year dining with friends when every laugh was cut short by someone's phone lighting up with a notification. I wanted to say, put it down, God's given us this moment, don't let it slip away like sand. The constant hum of technology, notifications, updates, 24/7 news can feel like a storm raging around you, drowning out his still, small voice. And here's the paradox. With all this connectivity, many of us feel more isolated than ever. We've got 1,000 ways to stay in touch: texts, emails, video calls, yet genuine bonds feel harder to hold, like water slipping through cupped hands. I hear it from friends, fans, even strangers at church. Denzel, I'm surrounded by people, but I feel alone. That's the enemy's trick, family making us think more likes, more followers, more messages will fill the void only God can satisfy. This ain't about resisting change or pining for a lost era. Every generation faces its battles, and we adapt in faith, trusting God's plan through every shift. But at 65, I'm chasing God's simplicity with everything in me. I step back from the chaos to focus on what he calls true. Heart-to-heart talks that echo his love. Relationships that lift my spirit. Quiet moments where his joy shines through like sunlight through stained glass. I think of evenings on my porch, watching the stars emerge one by one, praying over my day. Those moments feel like holy ground, where God whispers his truth, his peace, his purpose. What's your story, family? What's one piece of noise God's calling you to silence? Maybe it's the endless scroll on your phone, the pressure to say yes to every invite, or the news cycle that steals your peace like a thief in the night. Take it to God. He'll show you what to mute, what to amplify. If this resonates, slow down. It ain't rejecting life, it's choosing what feeds your soul in his name. Stepping back from the rush protects what's real, what's eternal: God's love, his people, his purpose. In a world screaming for your attention, simplicity is your stand, your declaration that you'll hold tight to what God says matters most. Like a lighthouse standing firm in a stormy sea. Solitude and loneliness are worlds apart, and God's shown me this truth has set my soul free like a bird loosed from a cage. Loneliness is an ache, a hollow craving for connection that gnaws at your spirit, leaving you restless, searching. Solitude, it's a choice, a sacred space where God's peace, reflection, and renewal pour in like living water from a spring that never runs dry. It ain't something to fear, it's his embrace, his sanctuary, a place where you meet him face to face. John chapter 16 verse 33 affirms, "In me you may have peace." In solitude I find clarity only God can give, like a fog lifting to reveal a clear horizon. There's a holy power in quiet moments, sitting on my porch, tea warming my hands, the wind singing through the trees, or watching the sun sink below the horizon, painting the sky with his promise of tomorrow. These moments don't just pass, they fill me, revealing the small joys God scatters through life, like pearls hidden in a field waiting to be found. I recall a morning last summer, alone by a lake in Virginia, the water still as glass, reflecting the dawn like a mirror of His glory. I prayed, poured out my fears, my hopes, my questions, and felt God's presence like a warm blanket wrapping my soul. That solitude wasn't empty, it was full of Him. His voice clearer than a bell, His love deeper than the ocean. Reflecting on my past in His presence brings healing like balm on old wounds. I don't linger on mistakes or missed chances. I thank Him for the lessons, the memories that light up my heart like candles in a dark room. I think of my early days in New York, struggling to break into acting, facing rejection after rejection at auditions. Those moments felt like failure then, but in solitude, God's shown me they were His training ground, building resilience, faith, and purpose in me. I recall nights pacing my tiny apartment, doubting myself, but God's voice whispered, "Keep going, son, I'm with you." Solitude's where I make peace with my journey, grateful for the man He shaped me into, flaws and all, a vessel for His glory. I ain't turned my back on people. Solitude makes me cherish my bonds deeper, like a farmer tending only the healthiest crops in his field. It lets me focus on ties that matter, not ones I keep out of habit or guilt. When I'm with my family, my kids, my closest friends, I'm fully there, savoring God's gift of their presence, every laugh and tear a treasure in His eyes. I think of a night with my son, John David, talking over dinner about his dreams, his fears, his faith. We sat for hours, no phones, no rush, just father and son, heart to heart. That moment was richer because I'd spent time alone with God, my heart clear, ready to listen, to love, to be present. Solitude shown me my worth isn't in how many folks surround me or how full my calendar looks. It's in knowing who I am, whose I am. It's easy to think a crowded room means you're valued, but God's truth is deeper. Your value comes from Him, the one who knit you together, who calls you His own, says you are fearfully and wonderfully made. In solitude, I hear His voice, "Denzel, you are enough because I made you, because I love you." If you feared being alone, hear God's invitation. Family, solitude ain't punishment, it's His gift. A space to hear His truth, find His peace, heal in His love. The more you lean into it, the stronger you grow, like a tree rooted deep by a river, unshaken by storms. What's your name? When's the last time you sat in God's quiet, just you and Him? Maybe it's 5 minutes before bed, a walk in the park, a moment with your Bible open, His Word alive in your hands. Start there, He's waiting, arms open. Solitude balances your heart, frees you from the world's noise, lets you build the life He dreams for you. In its stillness, you'll find His joy, His strength, deeper than you ever imagined, like a well that never runs dry, overflowing with His grace. Stepping back from folks ain't about anger, resentment, or turning cold. It's about protecting the peace God's planted in your soul, like a gardener shielding tender shoots from frost. He's shown me that not every connection is worth keeping, and not every obligation deserves your energy. This lesson took years to sink in, but it's one of His greatest gifts, a key to living free in His purpose. Matthew chapter 7, verse 6 states, "Do not give what is holy to dogs." In my younger years, I was always available, the friend who'd answer a call at dawn, the neighbor who'd fix a fence in the rain, the kin who'd drop everything to help. It gave me joy, like I was living out God's call to love my neighbor as myself. But it also left me drained, running on fumes, my spirit stretched thin like threadbare cloth. I poured into ties that didn't pour back, stayed in places that didn't align with God's values in me. I recall a time in my 20s when I kept showing up for a friend who took my kindness for granted. Every favor I did, driving him to work, lending cash when he was short, he expected more. Never asking how I was holding up, never offering a hand in return. I ignored the red flags, thinking loyalty meant staying, even as it chipped at my peace, my joy, my purpose. God opened my eyes. Family was like scales falling off, like Paul on the road to Damascus. Avoiding certain folks ain't selfish, it's preserving His holy work in you, guarding the temple of your spirit where His Spirit dwells. There's freedom in walking away from toxic ties, releasing duties that don't serve his purpose, like shedding a heavy coat in spring, feeling the warmth of his sun. I've traded the noise of endless social demands for the quiet joy of his solitude, where I hear his voice clear and true, like a bell ringing in the silence. Instead of stretching myself thin to please everyone, I nurture a tight, deep circle bonds that shine with God's light, like candles in a storm, unwavering and bright. This ain't shutting down. The people in my life now are here because they love me, not what I can do for them. These ties are effortless, rooted in his respect, his love, his truth. I think of a friend from church, James, who checks in just to pray with me. No agenda, no expectations, just brotherly love, pure and simple. That's the kind of bond God blesses, the kind that endures like oak in a storm. I sidestep negativity, folks who stir conflict like it's their job, complain without end, or never care how I'm doing. They don't get space in my world, not out of hate, but out of reverence for the peace God's given me, the peace he died to secure. I prioritize my peace, saying no more often, choosing his quiet over crowds, his presence over chaos. I recall a family reunion a few years back. Drama was brewing, old grudges resurfacing like weeds in a garden. In the past, I'd have jumped in, trying to fix it all, playing peacemaker till I was spent. But God said, "Step back, son, guard my peace." I left early, spent the evening praying, reading scripture, feeling his calm wash over me like a river. That choice wasn't easy, but it was right, wholly aligned with his will. Avoiding people ain't losing faith in them. It's trusting God enough to guard your heart, to protect the light he's placed in you. It's picking bonds that lift, moments that matter, like choosing fruit that's ripe and sweet, bursting with flavor. Life's too short for what don't bring his joy. In this choice, I've found freedom, a happiness I didn't know he had waiting, like a sunrise after a long dark night, painting the sky with hope. Ever ask yourself, am I the only one feeling this way? At 65, I'm wrestled with that question, especially as I've grown choosy about who gets my heart, my time, my trust. But talking to others my age, friends, peers, folks in my church, I see this ain't just my story, it's ours, family. God's teaching us his lessons on relationships, priorities, and worth, shaping us for his glory, refining us like silver in his fire. Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 proclaims, "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God." For decades, I tried to meet everyone's expectations, the friend who never let you down. The kin who always showed up, a neighbor who would give his last dollar to help. I'd stay up late helping a cousin with a crisis, drive hours to support a friend's event, say yes to every church committee, thinking that's what made me valuable. But I saw the cost. I was pouring out so much I had little left for myself, for my family, for God's purpose in me. It was like trying to fill 100 cups with a single pitcher. Eventually, you run dry, and there's nothing left for the ones who matter most. I've talked with friends, peers, and heard their hearts mirror mine. My friend Robert, a retired teacher, shared how he spent years being Mr. Fix-It for everyone's students, colleagues, family, only to realize he was neglecting his health, his faith, his dreams. My sister Linda told me she felt guilty saying no to family demands, but God showed her peace comes from boundaries, not burnout. We reach a season where we no longer need to be everything to everyone. We crave quality over quantity, real conversations that touch the soul, shared joy that lifts the spirit, bonds that reflect God's love, like a mirror showing his face, radiant and true. This shift ain't easy, family. It can feel like letting go of parts of yourself, like shedding an old skin that don't fit no more. Saying no to folks who leaned on you feels heavy, like you're betraying who you've always been. I remember declining an invite to a friend's event, a man I'd known for years, who'd been at my side in tough times. He was hurt, called me distant, said I'd changed. It stung, family, like a slap I didn't see coming. But I knew God was calling me to guard my energy for his purpose, to save my strength for what he deemed true. That no wasn't selfish, it was obedience, preservation, faith in his plan. Trying to be all for all leaves you drained, resentful, empty, like a well run dry. Stepping back makes room for ties that nourish you in him, like sunlight feeding a garden after a long winter. You ain't alone. Many in their 60s and beyond walk this road hand in hand with God's people. I see it in my church, my community, my circle, folks learning to prioritize God's peace, His clarity, His focus on what's true. I think of Sister Mary at church, who shared how she stopped hosting every family gathering, choosing instead to spend quiet evenings with her Bible and her grandkids. She said, "Denzel, I found peace when I stopped trying to please everybody." That's God's wisdom. Family choosing quality, choosing Him. What's God stirring in your heart right now? Who's in your life that needs His light, His love, His boundaries? Letting go of what hurts opens doors for deeper, more meaningful connections, like clearing weeds to let flowers bloom, vibrant and free. This season's about the quality of His love in your life, not the quantity of your commitments. If this hits home, you're walking with God's people, learning to live simpler, fuller, unapologetically His. Life ain't about endings, it's about beginnings, God's crafting, new chapters written by His hand. Every season brings His lessons, His challenges, His joys, shaping us for His glory, molding us like clay in His hands. At 65, I've learned this stage is less about proving myself to the world and more about resting in who He's made me, flaws, triumphs, and all. It's about letting go of what don't serve Him and locking into what does, like a ship setting sail for His promised land, guided by His eternal compass. Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 11 confirms, "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope." This truth sets you free, like a captive loosed from chains, stepping into His light. When we're young, we live with urgency, chasing dreams, rushing to achieve, striving to meet expectations that ain't even ours. I remember my 20s burning the candle at both ends, thinking success would define me, that the world's applause would fill my soul. I'd run from auditions to rehearsals, from meetings to parties, trying to be the man everybody wanted. But God's shown me the now is His gift, a present moment His canvas where He paints His purpose. This chapter is about His simplicity, finding joy in the small, holy things, sunlight streaming through my window, warming my face like His love, laughter with my kids, echoing like music in my heart, the quiet comfort of my favorite chair, where I pray and dream, wrapped in His presence. These moments seem small, but they're deep with His love, like pearls hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to see. Reflection's a gift too, a chance to look back with His eyes, to see the beauty in the journey. My life's a tapestry, beautiful threads of triumph, painful threads of loss, all woven into His masterpiece. I think of my Oscar wins, moments of glory when the world cheered, but also the rejections, the failures, the nights I doubted myself, wondering if I'd ever make it. Every audition I bombed, every door that slammed, every tear I shed, they shaped me, taught me, prepared me for His plan. I honor them without clinging, thankful for His guidance through every valley and peak. I recall a night in '93, after a tough day on set, feeling like I wasn't enough. I sat alone, Bible open, and read Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd." That verse carried me, reminded me I'm never alone, never forsaken. But this ain't just looking back, it's looking forward too, with eyes wide open to His possibilities. There's fire in knowing there's time to create, to learn, to grow in Him. I've taken up painting recently, splashing colors on canvas, finding joy in creating like my Creator, feeling His delight in every stroke. I'm nurturing my garden, watching seeds I've planted bloom into roses, tomatoes, life a reminder of His promise to make all things new. I think of a day last spring, kneeling in the dirt, hands in the soil, praying over each seed. It felt holy, like partnering with God in creation, trusting His timing for growth. What makes this chapter shine is His freedom, say no to what drains, yes to what fills with His peace. It's courage to live true, free from judgment, free from the pressure to meet others' demands. It's realizing being you exactly as God made you is enough, more than enough, because you're His. I think of a moment last month declining a project that didn't feel right, didn't align with His call. The old Denzel would have said yes to please, to prove, to keep the world's applause. But God's taught me my worth ain't in doing, it's in being His, resting in His love. If you're in this season, embrace it, family. Drop the noise, chase His joy. Life don't need to be perfect to be His, it's His anyway. The best moments come when you stop running and rest in Him like a child in a father's arms. This chapter is yours. Write it with His love, His gratitude, His joy, bold and unapologetic. Family. Stepping back at 65 ain't shutting the world out. It's guarding the peace God's fought for you. The peace Christ died to secure on that rugged cross. This season's your chance to focus on what He calls true, bonds that lift your spirit, moments that spark His joy, a heart calm in His love, steady as a river. It ain't about bitterness or regret, it's about living bold, intentional, wrapped in His purpose, shining like a city on a hill, a beacon of His light. This chapter is for shedding toxic ties, useless duties, the weight of others' expectations, like a snake shedding old skin to move free. It's for embracing His simplicity, His truth, His gratitude, walking in His light with every step. The road here's been long, painful lessons, holy truths, moments of doubt and triumph, but it's led to clarity, fullness, peace in Him. If you're feeling this, hear God's voice loud and clear. It's okay to choose peace over chaos. It's okay to put you first in His name, because you're His masterpiece, fearfully and wonderfully made. Life's riches ain't in how much you do or who you know, it's in the quality of your days. Live for His glory, every moment a testament to His love. What's your name? What's one step God's nudging you to take today, right now, in this very moment? Maybe it's saying no to a draining tie that's been sapping your joy, carving out 5 minutes for His solitude, or reaching out to a loved one with His love, a phone call or a hug that says you matter. Drop amen. In the comments, claim His truth over your life. Let it take root. Share this with someone who needs His light. Someone God's placed on your heart, a friend, a family member, a stranger who's struggling. Subscribe, hit that bell, join our family walking this holy path, hand in hand, heart to heart. Let's make this chapter one of bold faith, deep love, and every moment savored in His name. Like a song that never fades. God's got you now, go live it, shine it, be it, unapologetically His.